What is the most inoffensive thing you've seen someone get offended by? Story 1. Maybe 22 years ago, I had a phone interview with a baking company. I didn't care to have my peers know what I was up to, so I took the call on my cell phone in my car. The call was crystal clear and had no technical issues. At one point, they had mentioned the weather and asked how it was where I was. I told them that I was sitting in my car and I could see that it was actively snowing and whatnot. The interviewer asked me, "Are you taking this call on a cell phone?" I told him I was. Then he asked me if I thought that was appropriate. I asked him what he meant by that. He said he thought it was kind of rude to take a formal call on a cell phone. I told him I would be more than happy to conclude the interview if talking on a cell phone was an issue. If he was interested, I'd be happy to continue it the next day when I'd be at a desk. He again repeated how rude he thought it was that I had called from a cell phone and that there was no need to continue the interview process. I disagreed with the first point, but did agree with the second. To this day, I wonder what the heck he was talking about and where he was coming from. Wow, way to stamp "I am an aging worker who refuses to keep up with technology" on his forehead. Only thing I can guess is the possibility of a dropped call, but like you said, it was completely clear. Story 2. I still remember in kindergarten when my friend and I were reading all the colors out loud on one of those Crayola super packs. I got straight up yelled at and sent to the principal's office for saying "orange pizza" because the teacher said I called someone a pea-butt and would not listen, despite having the crayon as evidence. After a 30-minute scolding and waiting for my mom to leave work to pick me up for my suspension, she came in all apologetic. When I explained to her the whole situation, not the school side, Ma went ape crap. I'd heard her say crap once. That's the only swear I ever heard from her, and we had just been rear-ended in traffic. "How about chunt? Can he say chunt? 'Cause you're all being chunts right now. This is freaking ridiculous!" And just went off while I'm sitting there all, "huh?" And the principal is just red as frick. I got unsuspended on the spot, but she pulled me out of school for the day anyway. We had a lovely day, and she explained very well how I shouldn't swear like that, unless absolutely necessary, and I've exhausted all civility. When being civil simply isn't working, sometimes you might have to call someone a pea-butt. The next day at school, I learned that I now had the stigma of being the kid who got the Crayola Super Pack taken away. Story 3. We were choosing a mascot for a summer camp where I worked. It was the first day of camp, and we'd always let the campers vote on a mascot that we'd use for the rest of the summer as sort of a bonding thing. This year, the kids voted for wolves as the mascot. It was almost unanimous. But one kid, probably about 9 or 10, threw a fit because wolves are bad guys, and predators, and killers, and he didn't want to be a wolf. He wants to be a hero. He refused to participate in any team activities because he didn't want to be on a team with the bad guys. At one point, we brought in a guy in a full mascot wolf costume for some anti-bullying program, and the kid had a massive tantrum. I almost felt like we were going to learn at some point that his brother was killed by wolves or some other tragic origin story. I did feel bad for the boy because I was fairly certain he had some kind of unaddressed emotional difficulties or something, but we weren't going to change the mascot name that almost everyone voted for. The really sad thing is that wolf populations have suffered a lot due to stereotypes that they're bad. I imagine all the werewolves at the camp were just awkwardly sitting there wondering whether to speak up or not. Story 4. I had a pastor that insisted we call candy canes Jesus sticks because Christmas is all about Jesus, y'all. Ain't no fun to be had otherwise. Well, I was 7 and accidentally referred to the Holy Jesus stick as a candy cane in his presence. And I kid you not, he speed walked over to my dad to tell on me and carry on about how offensive it is to see all the world trying to remove Christ from Christmas. It starts in the home, den of sin without Jesus, something dark side. My dad asked him if he was serious. Spoiler, he was very, very serious, and then told him to grow the heck up. And that's how my dad dressed up as Santa a couple weeks later and came into the church yelling, "Ho, ho, ho, candy canes!" while passing said satanic candy canes to all the little children during the children's church portion of service. The pettiness runs deep, and it was delicious. Jesus Christ, I mean, the guy could have at least insisted on calling them shepherd's crooks, since, that's the intention behind the shape. But no, let's go with the vaguely dirty-sounding Jesus sticks. Story 5. Using a walking stick. I was in a car accident a few years ago, and it messed up my leg. Since then, I've been using a walking stick. I was walking to a shop, pre-pandemic, and an old bloke gave me the dirtiest look I've ever seen. "What do you need a cane for? You're only a kid." He actually got quite short with me just seeing me use the stick. Like, "My dude, I'm just out trying to buy some milk. I don't need your crap today." I didn't say that out loud. I just said it to myself after I got home. People like that are the reason my partner doesn't like going out. He's had a few operations on his back and needs his stick as one of his legs that has been left weaker than the other. He's had someone try and take his stick as he's walking. I nearly battered them. Story 6. This guy at a Halloween party I was at was dressed in a giant bacon costume. Some girl was yelling at him for being so offensive toward Jews and Muslims. She was neither Jewish nor Muslim. One of the Muslim guys at the party asked her what the F she was talking about, but she didn't back down. I have no idea why people feel they need to go out of their way to be inaccurately offended on behalf of others. Reminds me of a news story I saw a while ago. A Muslim family moved to a mostly white town. The white people decided it would help them feel more welcome if they removed every book from the library that had anything to do with pigs or bacon. I guess just because you can't eat it, you shouldn't see it or read about it either. Story 7. A freaking picture of an eye. We have an organization-wide theme every year, and all the PCs on our network have the same background and theme, which can't be changed. So this year's theme is Vision is 2020, and the background was a zoomed-in picture of an eye in really awesome colors. 2 women on staff wrote letters to complain that the picture was heathen, as it drew from Illuminati imagery and paid tribute to the all-seeing eye of Egyptian deities. They whined and complained to such an extent that the picture was eventually changed to shut them up and let the normal folks get back to our actual work. This clearly proves how much of an idiot these women were. The Illuminati eye is always depicted within a triangle, which I'm safely assuming wasn't the case. Story 8. Typing in someone's phone number to activate their rewards card. Finished typing it in, found her name, proceeded with the transaction, and said, "You're good to go." The woman replied with, "What is that supposed to mean?" And she gave me a fiery glare, as if I just kicked her toddler across the store. "It means I found your information. You'll get your points." The woman, "Oh, okay then." I still can't figure out why she flipped out like that. It was a rewards card. She got her points and she got her discount. What? The only possible way I can imagine getting offended by this is from never having heard that phrase before and assuming it meant, "I would like you to leave." But even then, that is quite an assumption. Story 9. Had someone get offended by me calling my brother bro. They insisted that I was racist and that white people can't be related to Mexicans. Like a serious lady. That's not how genetics work. We are 100% related and are a mix of white and Native American. It's not that unheard of for one biological sibling to come out lighter or darker than the other. And even if we weren't related, seriously, I'm racist for calling someone close to me my bro, despite being different skin tones? Seriously? Thank you for coming to my rant session. Have a good day. I had someone scoff and ask me how I, a white person, have a Latina cousin. It's like they don't realize 2 people of different races can have kids together. Story 10. I am a disabled person. My life sucks because of my disability, and no longer being able to do the things I used to love makes me quite depressed sometimes. Some jerkwad tried to lecture me about how I was ableist for wishing there was a cure for my disability. Screw me for not enjoying being in constant pain and possibly ending up in a wheelchair in the future, I guess. I remember I once got into an argument with someone on Tumblr because they stated it's offensive for me to not want to have my anxiety, and I should be proud of it. No thanks, Becky. I'd rather be able to live my life without the constant feeling that something's going to go wrong. Story 11. I once listened to my boss try to lecture the fire marshal because he was talking about something being flame retardant. Her reasoning was you should just call it fireproof because retardant was an awful word. It was one of those times where I really should have tried to stop her, but instead I just stood off to the side, probably making a surprised Pikachu face. I got an angry call from a client at the vet hospital I used to work at. She was angry that the doctor had written in her dog's chart something along the lines of, "Chemotherapy has retarded the growth of the tumor." She was deeply offended that the vet called her dog retarded. Story 12. I managed a small, new team that had no procedures or policies, so I set about instituting some. I mean, you never know. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and then no one would know how to process these requests. I told them when asking for their feedback, and for them to write up how they did their tasks. Then we would come back together and decide best practices in a meeting. Little man filed a complaint to the manager for my use of violent imagery and said that he felt threatened. It was a whole thing. Ultimately, he got fired. Screw him. Bye. That's why I always use eaten by a rhinoceros. Huh? That's not better, is it? Story 13. I spent 9 hours deep cleaning the house for an inspection. I went above and beyond, clearing my work schedule and going the extra mile, and my roommate double-checked my work. He had a complete psychotic meltdown because I forgot to sweep underneath the couch. I moved out the next day and never spoke to him again. I once lost a good chunk of my security deposit on an apartment that was spotlessly clean when we moved out. We got dinged because we didn't clean the fireplace. It didn't occur to us to clean the fireplace because we had never once used it. We left the fireplace in exactly the same state it was in when we moved in. Story 14. My parents are abusive and have called my sisters and I every name in the book. Pretty sure chunt was said to me more than my name. In a fight, my sister called my dad a fool when he was throwing a hissy fit. He flipped his crap and couldn't fathom being called something more offensive. He called me and told me what she said, and I laughed at him. Now my sister and I laugh all the time about how crazy our parents are. One time my dad told me to go to bed. I said, "Aw, man," a common colloquial expression of disappointment. He grounded me for addressing him as man instead of dad. Story 15. I commented on a thread once and said that the weird serial killer mass murderer fangirls who send nasty messages to the parents of school shooting victims were buttholes, which is a pretty non-controversial statement, or so I thought. Some rando appeared in my comments complaining about how everyone was entitled to their freedom of speech. Had to take a break after that one. Also, this makes no sense, since 1. Calling someone a butthole doesn't mean you limit their freedom of speech, and 2. It is your right to call literally everyone or anyone a butthole thanks to, you guessed it, your freedom of speech. Story 16. If I recall correctly, a B&B run by Norwegians had to take down their Norwegian flag because morons kept shouting abuse at them after mistaking it for the Confederate flag. Alternatively, morons getting ticked off at people writing Xmas because it takes the Christ out of Christmas, even though X, Greek letter chi, is a symbol dating back 2,000 years that meant Christ. I used to work at a flag store and have heard of the Norwegian, Danish, and UK flags all being mistaken for the Confederate battle flag. The common factors seem to be morons who see a red and white, and sometimes blue, flag that isn't the US flag. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 17. At my wedding, we marked the vegetarian items as vegetarian. This made the one vegetarian at my wedding, sister-in-law, who hates me, fly into a catatonic rage because we are singling out the vegetarian food as vegetarian and not treating it as normal food. Then how the frick are they supposed to know it's vegetarian? Yikes, that's a ridiculous thing to blow up at someone about, and she doesn't even make sense. It's definitely easier when the food is labeled as vegetarian or vegan, so you don't have to ask. I hope you don't have to deal with that particular sister-in-law as much since your wedding. Story 18. When my ex and I were looking at houses, we brought his dad, let's call him Dave, to see houses we already liked. The real estate agent didn't spend enough time on telling Dave he was right, that the bottom step was too tall, so later that night I got to hear an hour-long lecture from Dave about how the agent was a piece of crap that was trying to take advantage of us. A large reason I'm single now is because my mental issues are too much to deal with, but Dave here is definitely a contributing factor as well. Story 19. The Canadian flag told me that if they put up a Canadian flag in Pennsylvania, the neighbors would come and shoot everybody. Not quite sure about the logic on that one. Some people are weird when it comes to flags. I live in a mostly Hispanic part of New York. You can't drive by a house without seeing a Puerto Rican flag or a few American ones. One time an Asian family moved here and put up a flag that had a Buddha on it. A bunch of people complained and the Buddha was taken down. Apparently Buddha is racist. Story 20. Someone posted a video about 9/11 and someone commented, "Please take this down. You're not from New York. You will never understand this pain." She said this as if only people from New York were in the World Trade Center. As someone who was born post 9/11 and is from the New York City area, this mentality is very common. We were taught that 9/11 was our tragedy, and people who weren't from the area would never understand how it affected us. A lot of people romanticize the idea of being so close to the tragedy. Story 21. One of my coworkers was surprised and said, "Oh my God." A religious coworker overheard her using God's name in vain and reported it to HR. They had to have meetings with HR and the managers about respecting people's religion. The lady said, "Oh my God, she didn't wish for the death of Christianity for frick's sake. It was ridiculous." Fun fact, according to my cultural background study Bible, taking God's name in vain didn't even mean no swearing with the name of God. It meant don't use God's name to place magical curses on people. Story 22. I sang the song Hit the Road, Jack to a kid I just beat in a game while in the 3rd grade, mockingly. He took that as me calling him a jackbutt. He told the recess monitor this. I was told to stand against a wall away from the rest of the kids with the recess monitor. I'm 27 now, married with 2 kids, but I will never forget this. If you ever see this, I didn't call you a jackbutt, Jared, but now, screw you forever. Upvoting so Jared will see this. Story 23. A sandwich. I kid you not. My ex-husband was given a sandwich by our then 13-year-old daughter, and because she cut the sandwich, he went off on a massive strop about how his sandwiches should never be cut. The poor kid's face was crushed. It still winds me up no end every time I think about it. That sucks. My youngest isn't allowed to use sharp knives, so when he made me a sandwich, he tore it in half. It was still a great sandwich. Story 24. Someone once got offended because I used the word black in conversation. I was talking about an article of clothing, the color black. They tried to make it into something about race, and that I shouldn't use the term black anymore, and should say African American. I said that makes no sense. I'm literally talking about the color black. Am I supposed to say I'm wearing an African American colored shirt? Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that's actually offensive. Don't worry, I myself have African American eyes. Story 25. Back when I was in grade school, a teacher of mine was discussing something. I don't exactly remember the context. And he said God or a God, in order to be neutral to those with various religious beliefs, and probably to cover his butt since he was commenting about religion while in school. And a girl in my class got so upset and offended about it, she started bawling about how he is being disrespectful to her beliefs. "You're disrespecting my faith by disrespecting other faiths." Story 26. I had a coworker who got mad at me because I asked her not to tickle me. A, that's inappropriate at work. B, we are not children, we are not in a relationship, we are not family. C, I don't like being tickled. She flipped out and said everyone likes being tickled, and I was being mean to her. Happily, my boss had my back. Also, some people start swinging punches when they get tickled. It's not safe to do it to anyone randomly. Story 27. Ex of mine once flew into a shrieking rage because, while he was driving, someone swerved or did something surprising, and I gasped out loud. Apparently that meant I didn't trust him, and our entire relationship was in question. The amount of rage for the level of infraction was upsetting. My roommate will get mad if someone falls asleep in his car because they're supposed to watch for cops when he's speeding. I'm not kidding. Story 28. My dad loves to tell the story of how, shortly after they were married, he and Mom went to get some fast food. As they pulled up to the drive-thru window, my very conservative mom saw a sign that said, "Condiments available upon request," and said, "Oh my God, that's disgusting. Why would a restaurant feel the need to give those out?" She had misread it and thought they were giving out condoms upon request. Story 29. One Easter Sunday, a lady in church was wearing a hat that had the Easter bunny, chicks, and colored eggs as part of its design. The woman in the pew behind her took umbrage, telling the lady that Easter was about the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, not about silly rabbits, chicks, and eggs. I want to see her hat next year that depicts the whipping and crucifixion of Jesus. Story 30. I worked at a restaurant and we put up some Halloween decorations. We had to take them all down when someone found the glitter skull decoration offensive. Similar situation happened to me. I'm a nurse at a children's hospital. I was wearing Mickey Mouse Halloween scrubs, which have little dancing skeletons on it. A visitor for one of my patients complained that I was wearing scary and inappropriate scrubs. Story 31. In school, I referred to someone while talking and pointed at them and was told off for pointing a finger. Out of character for the teacher, she must have had a bad day or something. Dude, I got kicked out of class for yawning. I literally never did anything bad in class before. Imagine a random quiet kid just getting told off and booted from class for being tired. Story 32. There was a post on the internet a while back, maybe Am I the Butthole? A guy was dating a girl who lost her crap because he said flame retardant, and apparently retardant was a terribly offensive word. I think about that post a lot. Maybe someone can link it. Considering how easy it is to look up the meanings of words nowadays, these misunderstandings of terms should happen less, not more. Story 33. When I was a child, my mom paid for something with a check. The cashier remarked that my mom had nice handwriting. My mom flew off the handle, and we had to storm out of the shop in outrage. To this day, I have no idea what happened. Maybe it brought up sore feelings from when she failed the doctor entrance exams. Story 34. I had a friend who asked me if her outfit matched. Neon stripes and pastel flowers. I don't usually like clothes, but this was a walking disaster, and my best friend responded to her, maybe different shorts? She ran out of the room crying. Why? Because someone didn't like her ugly butt outfit. Don't ask if you don't want to hear the answer. Story 35. This happened just last week. I work at a bank in an affluent part of Atlanta, red, old white money, and a woman called in to let us know she was offended by the security questions for her online banking. The security questions she herself set up. Story 36. I was at the vet with my cat, and he sneezed. This was apparently very offensive to an older woman. She was there with a corgi, and she started screaming at me for about 30 minutes about pet hygiene. I'm sure her dog has done a lot worse in public. Story 37. I told my sister in a private message that it's first, not first, after she posted something on Facebook with a spelling error. She flipped out saying how I'm a bully and I need to appreciate that her spelling is more unique. Edit, she's 27. Unique, yeah, let's go with that. Story 38. An aid walk happened in front of our restaurant. My boss said, well, they better not come in here spreading their disease. I was like, dude, that's really not how AIDS or their walk works. I'd hate to see what he thinks about the breast cancer walk. Story 39. My mom got mad because, and I quote, she never asks me for money, referring to me. I'm sorry, would you rather I constantly bug you for cash so I can buy candy and stuff? Since she's apparently offering, take advantage of it. Story 40. At school, someone didn't have a calculator and asked if anyone had one they could borrow. Someone offered them a pink calculator, and they refused, saying that they were offended they'd try and give them something girly. Story 41. My 7-month-old was wearing a shirt that had a rocket ship and the NASA logo, and some middle-aged woman in the shop said he shouldn't be wearing that because he's clearly not an astronaut. I was dumbfounded. Story 42. While working tech support back during the dot-com boom, I had a customer get upset with me over the use of the word icon. He said it had religious implications, and he insisted I call Windows icons little picture things. Story 43. Years ago, a friend of mine went to play Othello, and a couple of old ladies got upset that Othello was being played by a black man. Story 44. My Mexican friend, born in a small town in Mexico, wore a sombrero and poncho for Halloween. A white girl told him that's offensive to Mexicans. Story 45. The kid that got the cops called on him and suspended from school for having a Nerf gun in his room during a Zoom class. Story 46. When I worked in customer service, yes ma'am, don't you ma'am me, don't you freaking ma'am me, you piece of crap. Okay, sir. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.